Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to be talking about what is the most damaging thing you can do to a narcissist. Because I know so many of you've been through so much with this narcissist. They treated you in the most horrific and abusive ways. They did so many things to you. And you want to get revenge. You want to hurt them in return for what they did to you. And you may be surprised what is actually the most damaging thing that you can do to a narcissist. Because believe it or not, it's not so much about going to them and hurting them directly. Actually, if anything, that could have the opposite effect, to where it then causes them to self-reflect and heal and grow. And this is what we sometimes see in those very rare narcissists, where they're just left alone and the victim has got no contact and they haven't got anyone on their side anymore. And then in those rare cases, the narcissist actually goes within and self-reflects. And they manage to learn how to cope with their disorder. And they become a lot better, they become a lot happier. So it's not always what people think. And actually, if you try and harm a narcissist in the same way that they harmed you, it's not going to work. It's not going to have the same effect. They will not react to things in the same way that we do. But yeah, let's get into what is the most damaging thing that you can do to a narcissist. The most damaging thing that you can do is to enable them. Just to let them get away with their behavior. Don't hold them accountable. Let them do whatever they want. Let them have whatever they want. That is the most damaging thing that you can do to a narcissist. Because by doing that, by enabling them, you are making it possible for them to continue on this destructive path. So that's what they're going to continue to do. And things will not get any better for them. But I know many of us, we look at it in a different way. Where it's like, if you just let the narcissist move on after what they did to you, and maybe they stole your money, maybe they've got this new relationship now and it looks like they're so much happier. It looks like they're living their best lives now. But what difference does that make? They could have everything they want. They could have all of the supply. They could have all of the money, all of the power. But what difference does it make if you can't even feel it? If you can't even experience it? If it doesn't do anything for you, if you're not even grateful for it, then what's the point in it? Because you see, they can't get satisfaction from things directly, and that's why what they do is they try to get you to filter everything through them so that they can live vicariously through you, because that's the only way they can find any sort of fulfillment with anything that they have. They cannot experience it directly because they're disconnected from themselves. And that's why they have to use other people and try to make them envious or jealous of them. Make them feel like they're missing out. Because then that's how they get to experience some level of satisfaction with it. From feeling like they have something that someone else wants. And this is why we often see these narcissists who are always on the rebound after a relationship. Because then they're using the previous victim as something to fuel them in this direction, because they can't find any fulfillment in it directly. So it's all just based on you viewing it and maybe you feeling jealous or feeling like you're missing out. But if you just didn't even care about it and you didn't even notice it, then it just wouldn't do anything for them at all. And that's how, when that happens, they typically escalate the abuse, they ramp it up. They will try to flaunt things even more and just do anything they possibly can to try and get a reaction out of you, because that's the only sort of thing that brings them fulfillment. They can't get fulfillment from anything directly. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who has noticed this, but from what I've experienced in my life, isn't it always the most attractive people who have everything going for themselves? They have the looks, they have the money, they have a good job. It's always those people who, once you get close to them, they're actually the most messed up. They're the ones with the most issues. It's like they just can't pair bond anymore. And maybe because of their looks, their physical attractiveness, or it could be their money or whatever it is, they've always had so many compliments from such a young age, and their ego has just been blown up, and they become desensitized to it because they hear it so often. And not only that, but because of their looks, they probably had a lot of different partners, a lot of different relationships, and now they can no longer pair bond. They can no longer emotionally connect to you. And also, when we look at celebrities, there's so many celebrities in this world who appear to have everything, and yet many of them have so many different marriages. They could get married just for 1 year, and then the next year they're married to someone else. And many of them turn to drugs. Many of them end up suicidal. Many of them die at a young age. And these are people who had access to whatever they wanted. Anything they wanted, they could just have it. They could just get it. They could live the life that they want to live. They could have everything. And clearly that didn't make them happy. They couldn't find any fulfillment in that. And I think even Elon Musk, I noticed a post on Instagram where it said that he sold all of his mansions and most of his possessions, and now he lives a very minimalist lifestyle. And he's not the only one. There are other CEOs out there as well who have done the same thing. And yeah, there does seem to be a correlation with that and happiness. I mean, if you look at the kids in Africa, they don't really have anything. And yet they seem so much happier than most people in other countries who have a lot more, especially in cities. The rate of narcissism is much higher in cities. And this brings me back to how the most damaging thing you can do to a narcissist is not to hold them accountable, because that will make them better. As I've spoken about in past videos, accountability is the key to our success. So instead, to damage a narcissist, you just enable them. You let them carry on. You let them do what they want to do. Because if you give them enough rope, they will hang themselves. But I know it may not be so satisfying to look at it in that way. to think that, oh, the narcissist just gets to do whatever they want and have whatever they want and not be held accountable for anything. That's the most damaging thing that you can do to them. But you know, I'm all about truth, and that is just exactly how it is. That's really how it is, not just with narcissists, but with anyone. And this is why, like how people say about spoiling a child. So just giving the child lots of toys, whatever they want, whenever they want it, and letting them get away with bad behaviour, never disciplining them. As we now know, spoiling a child is a form of abuse. It's abusive, and it causes a lot of harm to them. If you look up the definition of what spoiling means, it means ruining something, destroying it. And that's exactly what it does when you spoil a narcissist, or when you spoil anyone. When you let someone have access to anything, you let them have all the options, you let them do whatever they want to do, whether it's something good or something bad, whenever they want to do it, it will damage them. You can see that in children who later end up developing NVD or psychopathy, especially in celebrities as well. And many of you may have found that in your relationship with the narcissist. I was like, the narcissist could just go and do whatever they wanted to do. And then before you know it, they're at the pub every night, they're doing clubbing, drinking alcohol every day, using drugs, and they're just getting worse and worse. Well, as for you, maybe you were just left home alone, and you just had to deal with all of this chaos from them, all of this drama. But then within it built your character. It made you stronger. It made you more aware. It made you wiser. So in that sense, it benefited you. By you being limited, by being restricted. And I've noticed that in my own life, in my own past relationships as well. When I was younger, in my early 20s, all I was doing is just going out, clubbing, meeting girls every day, and having takeaways several days a week, pizzas, burgers, whatever I wanted. And at that point in my life, in my early 20s, my mental health was the worst that it had ever been. When I had access to so many things and I could do whatever I wanted, and there was no one there to tell me what to do. I wasn't in a full relationship, so I wasn't accountable for anything. I had no responsibility. That's when I was at like my worst in my life. Maybe physically I was at my best, but mentally I was at my worst. And I remember when I look back, I couldn't even sleep at night. I'd be awake all night. But then, in my late 20s, I started to take accountability. I started to limit myself, restrict certain activities. And honestly, that was the best thing that I ever did in my life. I stopped using cannabis. I gave up alcohol about 6 years ago. I gave up caffeine and energy drinks, coffee. And also I became a vegan. I stopped playing on my Xbox every night, and I stopped going out to clubs. I stopped being around lots of people as I normally would. I stopped having girlfriends, and I even stopped having sex. And then suddenly, my life began to improve. I began to think more. I began to become more self-aware. And then I began studying about energy vampires and narcissists on YouTube. And then after a few months, I then created this channel to where I'm now inspiring millions of people around the world. And that all started from me not getting to have anything and do anything I want whenever I want to do it, and not being held accountable for anything, and just having sex with so many girls, going on dates, getting drunk, smoking cannabis. Once I stopped doing all of that, then mentally I started to improve. And of course it makes sense, because when you're focused on everything externally, physically, of course your mental health is going to decline, because everything's physical and external. So of course, if you cut that off, if you limit that at the very least, then your mental health and your self-awareness will begin to improve. And it will build character, it will build a stronger sense of self. And this is why the most damaging thing that you can do to a narcissist is to let them continue on that path of self-destruction. Let them continue with their addictions. Let them go to the pub, let them go to the club. Let them get drunk every night. And let them use drugs. Let them cheat, let them sleep around. Let them ruin their own lives. Because that's all that's going to do. Yes, it may look like they're having fun in the moment. It may look like they're having a good time. But that's just it. Their idea of having a good time is destroying themselves. It's not making them better. I'm sure many of you may have experienced that as well. When you stop doing these things, your life begins to improve. Because then you're more focused on yourself mentally, rather than just physical stimulation. When you limit the physical stimulation of the world, you begin to stimulate yourself mentally. So who you are begins to improve. So maybe not what everyone wants to hear. You may have clicked on this video hoping that it would be something about revenge, how you can directly harm a narcissist. But I am not about that. I don't think that we should take the law into our own hands. I don't think that we should play God. Because I am a believer. I believe in laws, systems, and I believe in a higher power. So I don't think that we should intervene in that. And instead, what you should do is just let things play out. Let things happen as they're going to happen. I mean, if you really believe that this person is narcissistic, if you really believe that they were bad to you, they mistreated you, they wronged you, if you're really that confident about that, then why would you feel the need to get revenge? Why would you feel the need to intervene? you wouldn't feel the need to do that. So maybe those of you who are feeling vengeful, feeling like you want to intervene in a narcissist's life, you need to develop your faith in a higher power. And also remember what you went through with them. Remember how they treated you. Just think about how unhealthy that is. Remember how damaging that was for you. Unfortunately, that was done to you. So you can heal from that, you can unlearn it. But as for them, they were the perpetrators. They were the ones who were directly harming you. And as clinical studies show, bullies are only 10 to 25 times more risk of developing a psychiatric condition than their own victims. So that's exactly what's going to happen to them as a result of what they've done to you. And this is why when you see these narcissists, they're so anxious, they're depressed, and they have problems with their work, they have problems in relationships, they have a lot of problems because they neglect themselves mentally, they're disconnected from themselves, they lack self-awareness. So how can anything improve internally? It can't. Sometimes, yes, they may be able to improve things externally because, of course, they're so hyper-focused on the external physical world. But no matter what they achieve externally, it's not going to help them internally. And I know some of you may be thinking, yeah, but if I just had some more money, I would feel a lot better. Or something I've seen on social media, money can't buy happiness, but I'd rather cry in a Ferrari. Yeah, it sounds good, but honestly, any happiness that these things appear to bring in the physical world, it's temporary. It won't last for long. It's not something where you're going to achieve something or you're going to have something and then you're just going to be happy for the rest of your life. It's never going to be that way. You might experience a bit of happiness for a moment, but then what's going to happen after that? And it's the same thing for the narcissist, actually. For them, it's even worse. Because they can't really get fulfillment from anything directly, not even for a moment. It's all about just feeling like they're up to mischief, feeling like they're doing something they shouldn't be doing, feeling like they have something that you want as though you're missing out on something, and then that fuels them in whatever they're doing, whatever they have, and whatever activity they're involved in. It fuels them in that. And then it makes it feel much better for them, thinking that it's something that you want or something that you're missing out on. But that doesn't last as well because after a certain amount of time you take your energy away from it and then you put the focus back on yourself. And that's how even with the narcissist, they go off with a new supply. It isn't long until they come back, until they hoover you. Because they can't find any fulfillment in things directly. It's only if your energy and focus is on it, and you're watching them, you're feeling it, you take your energy and focus away from it, and then watch what they do, then they'll come back to you. And that's why if you want to get revenge, that's all you've got to do. And that's what you should do anyway. You cannot control another person. You cannot just make them do what you want to do or what you want them to do. So instead, you just have to let things play out. You have to let them be who they want to be and do what they want to do. And again, if you have that faith in a higher power and in karma,
And if you really believe in yourself, you have confidence in what you went through, and you know that that was wrong, you know that they shouldn't have done those things to you, you know that only a messed up, damaged person would do that to someone. If you know that, then you should know that it's not going to get them very far. Such as, I know we always talk about cars, but it's a good example. If you imagine a car, and maybe it's got some damage to the exhaust or the engine, maybe it might run for a certain amount of time, but if you know that that engine or that exhaust is damaged, you know it's not going to get very far. You know it's not going to be successful. And it's the same thing with these narcissists. And that's how they're so vengeful with you. Because they know that, unlike them, you're not broken. They know that there's very little wrong with you. And if there is anything wrong, it's the result of what they've done to you. And that is why they intervene. That is why they come back to sabotage you. Because at some level, yes, they do know that it's them and not you. They know that they are the problem. They know that they are messed up. They know that they're damaged. They're already aware of that. And that's why they have to intervene with you, because otherwise they understand if they don't intervene, then things are going to get much better for you. You're going to move on. You're going to become happier and healthier. You're going to succeed. You're going to have a much better relationship with someone else other than them. Yes, of course they know that, and that's why they intervene. That's why they get involved. That's why they devalue you. That's why they sabotage you. That's the whole point of it. Because they're very insecure and they don't really believe that you're the bad person that they're making you out to be. They don't really believe in that. If they did, then as the old saying goes, if you give someone enough rope, they'll hang themselves. And that's exactly what they would do with you. They would just leave you alone, they would forget about you, they wouldn't get involved, and you would never hear from them ever again. But as we know, that never happens. They keep coming back, they keep getting involved, they have to sabotage you. They're constantly spying on you for that reason. Because they know that they're messed up, but they know that you're alright. And they clearly have that much faith in you. You've got to start having that faith in yourself. Recognize every time that they come back, every time that they hit you up, every time that they're spying on you, watching you, whatever they're doing, let that be an affirmation to you of how much they believe in you. When a narcissist devalues you, it's because they believe in you. So let them continue with what they're doing. Let them continue with their abusive behaviors. And even when they're not there, even when they're giving you the silent treatment, that's still damaging them. Even when they ghost you, that's harming them, because they are the ones who are conducting that behavior. They're the ones who are doing that to you. So of course it's going to affect them far more than it affects you. If you think that it's affecting you, it should just make you realize how much more it's affecting them. Because as clinical studies show, bullies are at a 10 to 25 times more risk of developing a psychiatric condition than their own victims. And that has been proven by clinical studies. I see we've got 162 live viewers. I'd really appreciate it if you could hit that thumbs up button underneath the video. Let me know if you've got any questions down below in the live chat. I will read them out and respond to them. But yeah, I know it's not the most satisfying thing to hear. You may just want to get revenge. You may want to see them suffer. You may want to see them on their hands and knees, begging you, apologizing to you. Of course, after everything they've done, I can understand that. But honestly, trying to stop them on their destructive path, trying to teach them a better way, trying to correct them, and holding them accountable, that is the best thing that you can do for someone. The best thing that you can do for anyone is to hold them accountable, is to discipline them, is to tell them what they're doing wrong, correct them. And also the best thing you can do for anyone is, in many ways, even to discredit them. Is to ruin their reputation. Because then what's the narcissist going to do? They're going to start again. They'll start from the beginning and they'll already have everything that they learned before. And then they're going to be that much better the next time, in the next place they go to. And also, another great thing you can do for someone is to isolate them. Because then they're alone with themselves, and of course, once all of that attention and focus is on themselves, they're going to become a lot better and stronger. So, with all of that in mind, it makes a lot of sense when you see the flying monkeys and the smear campaigns, and how they just seem to keep getting worse. They become more and more desensitized, and their abusive behaviors become normalized to them. They become more and more mentally ill. But the target, at least if they're strong enough, and if they know what they're doing, they can become stronger, better, and more successful than all of them. And that's how it works, because all of the things that they do, if you see it as the blessing that it actually is, it can actually work out a lot better for you. As it did for me. I endured smear campaigns, gang stalking, and honestly, I am a far better person after that than I ever was before, than I ever thought I could become in my entire life. And I'm sure I'm not alone. I'm sure there's many of you out there who feel the same way after dealing with narcissists. And I'm not saying that abuse is okay. I think instead what's best is discipline, correcting people's behavior. There's no need for abuse. There is no purpose for abuse in our lives. So I'm not advocating for that. But discipline and correction, accountability, that's what we need. Barbara Scarpacy Whittin says it's a complete cycle of abuse. The theme will change, but the thread is the same every time. Yeah, it's an endless cycle of abuse. And each time the narcissist gets worse. When they discard you and then they hoover you back in, they're even worse the second time. The devaluation phase is even worse than it was before. It doesn't get better. They don't become more loving, more kind, they get worse. They get worse with age. They become even more bitter and resentful, even more envious and jealous. So clearly, their narcissistic behavior is not helping them. Narcissistic behavior does not help the individual at all. And I've heard several psychologists on YouTube mention this, of how narcissism is actually self-destructive. So it's not beneficial for them. It makes them worse. I'm actually bringing you comfort from knowing that how this narcissistic person treated you, and you think, they gave you the silent treatment, they ghosted you, they're moving on to something better. No, actually, they did you a favor. And now they're taking their damage, they're taking their emotional baggage somewhere else out of your life. That's all that they're doing. They're taking out the trash for you. Missy says, damn, I messed up, broke up in 1 minute, went back the next hour. I have a plan to escape real soon this year. Don't worry, Missy, it happens to so many people. On average, a victim will get back with a narcissist 7 times before it's finally all over. So you're not alone there. I get it. I mean, they can sometimes seem so charming and charismatic. When they return to the love bombing and they bring back the false character, especially if you're in the trauma bond, it just pulls you back into it. But it's good that you're more aware now, that you recognize that going back was not the right thing to do. Because you see now that things are not going to change, they're not going to get better. The only thing that you can do is to escape, as you have mentioned. Resista says, revenge only brings you to their level. But if it gets bad enough, revenge becomes duty instead. Yeah, that's it. The revenge, it does just bring you down to their level. And it's really like the whole point of it is that we saw something wrong with them. We didn't like what they were doing. So what that really reveals, if you do take revenge and you do what they do, it reveals weakness. Because what you're saying is you can't compete with them, you can't outdo them, you can't overpower them. So it's like, what, if you can't beat them, join them. Because that's really what you're doing when you cave in and you try to get revenge, is you're saying they're stronger than you. But you can't beat them, so you have to join them. But that's just it, we can beat them, we can continue being ourselves. Because as I've always said, love always wins in the end. Hatred, resentment, abuse, those are things that losers do. And they're sore losers. And that is why I am completely against any direct revenge. I don't believe in that. Because I believe in God, I believe in a higher power, I believe in karma. And I believe in my perceptions. I believe that I am right. I know that I'm right. I know that what I've seen in people, I know that I was correct. And deep down I know that I am a good person. And that I try to be the best that I can be in every situation. And when you have that true conviction, that self-assurance, that confidence in yourself, you will know that what you're doing is right. You will know that you are on the right path. You will know that there's no reason for you to go back and to get revenge on the narcissist. because you know that they're just going to go in a path of self-destruction. Well, the best thing for us is to turn inwards, take accountability, correct and discipline ourselves so that we can become better. Because that is the best thing that you can do for anyone, especially for yourself. Barbara says revenge ultimately is useless, though at times enjoyable, but it stalls you. I mean, that's it. I mean, revenge is a sign of weakness. It reveals a lack of internal strength. People who get revenge, it's only because they can't regulate their own emotions. But I get it. I understand that narcissists do a lot of hurtful things to us, and sometimes it's difficult to have that self-control. It's difficult to control our emotions, and I get that. But honestly, that's what it comes down to. When you're feeling vengeful, it's because of an inability to self-regulate. So then you're seeking external regulation from a person outside of yourself, as though you don't already possess the internal tools. They don't, and that's why they have to get revenge on us in order to regulate. That's why they hold grudges for the rest of their lives. That's why they have so much resentment. Because they can't regulate themselves from within. They're like big babies. They have an arrested emotional development. Nelson Jardo says, focus on yourself. You can't do the revenge the way God, karma can. You 100% cannot. Focus on thriving. Great message there, Nelson. Thank you for that. John Tracy says, similar to mud wrestling with a narcissist, they love it. Yes, I agree, they do love it. They love it when they can pull you into their mud, when they can get you dirty. Because that's just what they're like. They're dirty. It's like, once they pull you into that mud, they feel satisfied, at least for a moment, because then you're dirty just like them. But it won't feel good for you because you are conscious and aware of yourself. So if you get dirty with them, it's not going to feel good. You will feel shame. They won't, because they're disconnected from themselves. They deflect the shame onto you. And that's why it seems like they can do anything and everything. They will do whatever it takes to deflect that shame onto you. Because at any cost, all they want to do is disconnect from themselves. Missy says, comes from childhood trauma. Educate yourself. There are different types of narcissism so that you will know what to expect. Barbara says, they do not care what kind of attention they get, they only want attention. Very true. If they can't get positive, they'll set up a negative attention. as long as the focus is still on them. They just want someone to validate their false self. Abraham says, close every chapter with these toxic, negative narcissists. Yes, that's right. Close every chapter. Close the book and throw it at them. Mystic Creation says so true. But it is difficult if it is your child. Now I myself, I have a personal belief about narcissists who are your children, because the way I see it is we do have a role, a duty as parents. And for me, no matter what my child did, or if my child became a narcissist, I would always stick by them, no matter what. Even if my child ended up becoming a serial killer, I would still be there. I would go to the jail as often as I could, and I would always be there for my child. Even if my own child was a narcissist, a psychopath, because that's just my personal belief about it, is that I see it as though if anything happened to my child, then I have a role to play in that. I'm responsible for it, because if the parent isn't responsible for the child, then who is? Well, that's just how I see it. And especially if the child is under 18, then the way I see it, it's always going to be one of the parents' fault. And even if it is the other parent's fault, then we still have a duty to step in and make things better. That's just my personal belief about it. I mean, as you know, I have a charity next to the video here for victims of child sexual abuse, because I don't believe that children should ever be blamed for anything. But if you're talking about adult children who are narcissists, but of course there's a lot of time before that, and it depends what happened then, whether or not you were present in that situation. I haven't experienced that myself in my life, but I just see it as though the parent should always be there for their child and never give up on them or turn against them. That's just my personal belief about children as a man. Yeah, it's all about attention for these narcissists. They never had their emotional needs fulfilled in childhood, so now they just need excessive attention, excessive focus on them at all times. They need an external regulator. They need to be seen, they need to be heard. That's what narcissism is. Hey, Ronnie says you can only be a guiding hand, doing your best to keep children away from them.
Yeah, I do believe that we should be there to guide our children, no matter what happens, no matter how things turn out. Because I just believe that that is our role, that is our job as parents. It should be all about future generations. It's just evolution, it's just how we're meant to be built. Racist says they have to distract themselves from themselves. Yes, at any moment they have to disconnect from themselves, and in order for them to do that, they have to disconnect you from you. They can't have you being connected to yourself while they're disconnected, because otherwise it triggers them to self-reflect. Because naturally, you being connected to yourself, you're going to hold them accountable, you're going to expose them. And that's why by the end of it, so many victims, they feel like they're getting raised at a core level from dealing with narcissists. They don't even know who they are. Because you can't know who you are and be around a narcissist. You can't coexist with them. They have to make you disconnect from yourself. Because they always want to remain disconnected from themselves. They want to remain asleep for the rest of their lives. But I do not want to remain asleep. I want to remain awake for the rest of my life. And that's why no matter what a narcissist does to try and keep me down, I'm going to keep coming back. I'm going to keep waking up. And I'm going to wake everyone else up as much as I can. Amanda Cerise says they are pathetic in my opinion. They know exactly what they are doing, else why try to hide the abuse and be perfectly behaved in public. Demons behind closed doors for that unfortunate victim. They're the ones who are more self-aware. They do know exactly what they are doing. And they understand the effects that it's having on you. The ones who are less self-aware, they may not be fully conscious of what they're doing. But either way, self-aware or not, they're still at a low level of consciousness. They're still dealing with a lot of shame. Steady Pace says, bye all, enjoy the chats. The Voice is on telly. Gotta watch it, some good singers on. Simple pleasures, LOL. I actually used to enjoy watching The Voice and The X Factor sometimes. I do like singers who have a good voice. I haven't got a good voice. Got a good voice with speaking, but not so much with singing. But yeah, you enjoy your show, Steady Pace. Thank you for joining us here. Those of you who don't know, I am on the island of Bali, which is in Indonesia. You can probably hear the crickets in the background.
don't know what it is, but for me it's soothing to hear the sounds of crickets, especially at night when I'm getting ready for sleep. It's comforting for me. Is it comforting for you too? Let me know. But yeah, I think let's just go for this video. The most damaging thing that you can do to a narcissist is to enable them, let them carry on, let them continue doing what they're going to do. Don't hold them accountable. Let them have and do whatever they want to do it. It's not going to be any good for them. It's not going to be any good for them going to the pub, going to the club every night, getting drunk, sleeping around, using drugs, disrespecting you, abusing you, mistreating you, ghosting you, giving the silent treatment. None of that is going to be any good for them, because it is damaging and destructive, it is abusive, it is wrong, and it will affect them far more than it ever affects you. So yes, the most damaging thing you can do to a narcissist is to enable them, let them continue on that self-destructive path, because narcissism is self-destructive. But for all of you empaths out there, you continue on your path. You continue on your path towards self-love and self-care, and spreading light and positivity to as many people as you can in this world. Inspire other people to commit good practices, to take better care of themselves, to become the best version of themselves. Inspire other people to do that. Because I am a firm believer in that the light and positivity that we give out into the world will always come back to us. But that's not the only reason why we should do it. It's also because it is the right thing to do. Anyway, I'd like to thank you all for joining me on another Narc Survivor live video. Give it a thumbs up down below if you found it helpful. Hit that subscribe button and click all notifications so that you will be notified when I go live in the future. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. I read your comments every day. Donations are greatly appreciated, no matter how small. You can donate by going to my PayPal. It is paypal.me/Narc Survivor. If you would like to book a one-on-one coaching session with me, just go to my website. It is narcsurvivor.co.uk. And also follow me on Instagram. You can see the reel I uploaded today from my trip last year in Vietnam, where I was gang stalked. I was harassed by a group of ugly psychopaths in Hue, Vietnam. You can see that on there. And actually I have got the full video here on YouTube. Interesting to watch. Those of you who are involved in smear campaigns or gang stalking. And if you want to know more about psychopaths, it's good to watch. that video because you can see what it's like in real life, and also you can see the right way to deal with them and to protect yourself when you are being stalked by a group of psychopaths. So yeah, I hope that video is helpful to you. Follow me on Instagram, it's Narc Survivor YouTube. As always, thank you all for joining me. Thank you for your support. And I will talk to you in another one very soon.